The other thing that I'm noticing is the way people will use words, to, like, for example, Black Lives Matter. You're like, of course they do. BLM Inc. You're like, have some questions, or pro-choice. Well, everybody's a fan of choice, but maybe I'm not a fan of murdering the unborn, and we could debate that. The other thing is like homophobia. Like I'm a faithful Catholic, right? Like I think that homosexual acts are wrong. It's interesting. I was thinking about this. Like most of the people watching right now think homosexual acts are wrong. They also think fornication is wrong, masturbation, right? They have lots of things they think are wrong, but they also think that Dave Rubin is super awesome. And I think that really kind of shatters the leftist MSNBC narrative that I can't disagree with your actions and at the same time love and respect you. But homophobia, it's like I've never been afraid of somebody who's had the same-sex attraction. Like never has occurred to me.
First off, a phobia is an irrational fear, right? So I suspect that if we were in the same room together, you would not have an irrational
I don't think so.
fear of me based on one, trait or something like that. Yeah. But yes, they're really, really good about using words that sound right and sound good, but are not. So these are the people that constantly talk about tolerance and diversity, right? Mm-hmm. Well, tolerance, to any of the people burning down cities right now and attacking people in cars and all of the awful things that we're watching all of these videos of, do they strike you as really tolerant? Do they strike you as really people who would care for a diverse set of viewpoints? Actually, they're totalitarian. They want you to believe and bow to it. I mean, there's literally, I shared a couple of videos on Twitter this morning. There are a bunch of people stopping cars and saying, you can't use this bridge because one of them was they were literally saying you're an old white couple, you can't use this bridge. But they're doing it in the name of tolerance.
Gosh, does it scare you? Like when you see other people who are that blind to their own ignorance and their own stupidity, whenever I see that, the first thing I think is, crap, what am I blind to? Like that's the first thing I think of because they clearly don't think that they're blind to something. They think they're doing the right and the moral thing. And then I think, well, I think I'm doing the right and moral thing. Anyway.
Well, no, that's a great point.
Makes you second guess, doesn't it?
I think that's the best thing you could do as a thinking person. And trust me, I do it all the time. Especially on Twitter where it can sort of bring out the worst of us at different times and you get into fights or whatever it might be. I always think, man, am I suddenly behaving the exact same way I would mock if I was on the other side of the aisle?
It's a great question.
I try not to fall into those traps, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I never do. But I do promise you that I do examine my own beliefs enough and try to challenge them enough. And not just believe them because they make me feel good to believe them. I do try to map them against the real world. And that's why, by the way, what they're doing is so dangerous, to cancel everybody that you disagree with or call everybody a racist and a homophobe. What happens is you silence all the opposing voices that you disagree with, and then you have no way of mapping the world. One of the only ways we have of mapping the world is by saying, I think these things, I believe these things to be true. Now you think these things. Well, now let's look at them together. Let's map them together and go, well, one of us is more correct or one of us is more compelling or whatever it might be. But if you eliminate all of the people against you have no mirror. And now you're just going. So another one of the words that they use, progressive. Well, that sounds right. Who doesn't like progress? Except progress, you don't want progress just for progress' sake.
Yeah, if you're drifting off the edge of a waterfall, you don't want to progress that way. Yeah.
Of course. If you told me that to be a progressive means you want equality under the law for everyone. Now that's what liberalism is in my view. But if you said that's what progress means, to be a progressive is to want everyone in the United States of America to be treated exactly the same by the law, which we are, by the way, then I would say I'm a progressive. But if your idea of progress is, well, we've already passed that, right? We've passed that point where everyone's equal under the law. Now we're going to progress to putting people in a stack. And if you're black, you have this much worth. And if you're white, you're really down here. And if you're Christian, you're way down there. If you're Muslim, you're up here. If you're gay, you're here. None of it makes any sense. But now that's what they tell us is progress. They tell us progress is the exact reverse of what Martin Luther King Jr. wanted. He wanted his children not to be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And they have now progressed to the point where that is now racist in essence. So it's the anti-racists who are actually bringing racism into our society in 2020.
Thank you for watching this clip. You can click here to watch the full episode. And I want to say a big thanks to our sponsors and to our amazing patrons for making all of this possible. Please do us a favor before you go. Click that subscribe button and then the bell, and that way YouTube will be forced to let you know every time we put out a new episode.